to another edition of Mctv Sports. I'm Michael Conway.
I'm Jon Butensky.
Our first story today comes out of the MLB. The Baltimore Orioles are 7-0.
Yeah.
Quite a hot start for them.
Definitely. The biggest thing they have to rely on is their offense. J.J. Hardy had a nice game against the Red Sox yesterday, had 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. Chris Davis, as usual, is killing the baseball.
Absolutely.
Manny Machado's playing the hot corner very well. But the thing that the Orioles are going to have to rely on most is their pitching. Chris Tillman has to act like an ace. He's probably their best pitcher in the staff right now. Kevin Gossman's on the DL right now, so he's going to have to stay healthy and come back. And lastly, Dylan Bundy, their top overall pick a couple years ago, is finally healthy. He's in the bullpen. He's going to go along with Darren O'Day and Zach Britton to form a pretty good bullpen if he can stay healthy as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of factors that go into a successful baseball team, and pitching is really the cornerstone of that.
It is the key.
You know, when you have guys like Macchiato and Davis who can hit the ball like they can, you're going to have to rely on your pitching to carry you through the season, you know? And you see a hot start like this, 7-0, but it's a long season.
Very long season.
You know, so this could just be kind of a flash in the pan thing, or maybe the Orioles are going to be the team to beat this year.
Honestly, it really doesn't matter. 7-0 is nice, but the season just started.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's baseball is just that sport that's just so long that you can never call it too early.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also around the MLB this year is, of course, Trevor Story. And he has 7 home runs in 6 games. It's easily the best first week in baseball ever. His batting gloves and his batting helmet are already in the Cooperstown Hall of Fame. So talk about a hot start. Quite the hot start for him.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy is killing the baseball. Jose Reyes is suspended right now. He doesn't seem like he's coming back anytime soon. So it's Story's position right now.
Yeah, he's definitely my player to watch, though, Trevor Story.
Definitely.
Good things coming from him. He went 0 for 3 the other day, his last game. But when you hit 7 home runs in 6 games, I mean, that certainly says something about you. So
absolutely.
Good things to come from him.
Kid's playing well. I mean, we shouldn't be expecting to hit him home runs every time, but
of course,
he's still playing very well.
Baseball's that kind of game where you hit 2 home runs one day and then you strike out 3 times or whatnot.
Golden sombrero.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's definitely my player to watch for the week.
Definitely. How about we go to the Yankees now? I think they just lost to the Blue Jays. They're 4-3.
Yep.
Pitching's been all right, but they're gonna have to rely on their bullpen. Hey, a couple of games ago, they had Johnny Barbado chasing Shreve, then Dylan Betances, and then Andrew Miller without Chapman, and they gave up no hits in 4 innings. So it's as long as the starting pitchers can pitch 6 innings, they're set. I mean, they have that good of a bullpen.
Absolutely.
Look, you'll see the Kansas City Royals last year. That's what wanted. I mean, they had a nice rotation, but
you get a nice rotation like them. Like the Mets had a great rotation last year, and that's really what carried them through the year.
You need pitching though.
So if the Yankees can do that, they could have good pitching, man. They could really go far this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how about the Mets? You mentioned before the Mets.
Yeah, the Mets. I mean,
gotten off to a slow start.
Yeah, a little bit of a slow start, but based on their performance last year, I'm excited to watch them play. They're definitely on the radar from being a team that hasn't really been in the playoffs recently, and to having such a large year last year, and making it to the NL Championship Series.
Absolutely.
They're definitely a team to watch this year.
And DeGrom, he's been a little injured right now. I think he's on and off the DL, but it's still a decision to be made. Matt Harvey's 0-2 right now. It's not his typical self. But the best pitcher by far in the Mets has been Noah Syndergaard. I mean, the guy's stuff is filthy. He's starting with 98. And just nasty breaking stuff. I think he had 12 strikeouts in 5 innings pitched against the Marlins, and he didn't get a decision because the guys can't hit. Cespedes isn't hitting. He has 1 home run. David Wright is too old. I hate to say it. I'm sorry, Met fans, but it's true.
He has been playing for a while, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the only competition for them is the Nationals. I mean, the Marlins aren't good.
Yeah.
They're all right. The Marlins are not good. The Braves are terrible.
Yeah,
the Phillies are terrible.
I don't think they've won yet this year.
It's the Mets division to lose against the Nats.
Absolutely. Even if they play a mediocre year, they may still come out ahead of most of the teams in the NL there.
It's going to be tough with the wild card, but they have a chance for the East. We're going to stay in the East with the Boston Red Sox. Your team, Mike.
Yeah, definitely my team. A lot of things going on with them. One thing I'd like to talk about, we're talking about pitching rotations. There'll be a lot of good things to see about the Red Sox. Obviously, Rick Porcello from the Detroit Tigers, we got him.
Yep.
We've had him. He's been doing good. He's a great pitcher on the team. And also, of course, David Price is our new signee. We're waiting to see what he's going to do, how he's going to mesh in with the team, but he's been doing pretty good so far. He got the opening day start. He had 10 Ks, won 6 innings, so that's great to see that, that money pays off right away.
Cy Young winner from last year. But you were
Absolutely,
mentioning Rick Porcello, and also you got to mention Clay Buchholz. They have to step up.
Yes,
They got to be there
yeah.
They got to be there 2 and 3 and really step up in this rotation.
Clay's that kind of pitcher where some days you get a great game from him, and then you go to him again, you expect that again, and he kind of falls through. He can only give you a couple innings, and he gives up too many runs.
He's on and off. So
yeah, there are definitely some problems with that rotation, but signing Price, that's a big step forward. To say, hey, we need a guy who's going to come in and be dominant game in and game out and be a true ace for the team, and I think he's a great compliment to Rick Porcello as well.
Yeah, and also David Ortiz, it's his last season.
That's obviously a huge deal, one of the most famous Red Sox players ever, the Grand Slam, during the ALCS against the Yankees in 2004. I mean, that's just amazing. The World Series after that in 2007 and 2013 is just such a big part of that franchise. And to see him go is tough, but I mean, if it's his time, it's time.
Yeah. He's a great player.
It's going to be hard to go, It's going to be hard to see him go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned before, Trevor Story was your player to watch. I have a couple things that happened this weekend. So player to watch is obviously Madison Bumgarner, great pitcher for the San Francisco Giants. And he hit a home run this weekend, which is not rare for him because he's a very good home run hitter. But the thing is, he hit off Clayton Kershaw, the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
Not to mention that was his second career home run off of him.
I think that just goes to show that Bumgarner, he can kind of do both.
Yeah, he's a great hitter and pitcher. And also, we got to mention Kyle Schwarber, the highly prized outfielder / catcher for the Cubs. Fortunately, he tore his ACL and LCL on his left knee. But the thing about the Cubs is they're so deep because they could put either Jorge Soler, they could put Ben Zobrist in left. Then from second, you put Tommy La Stella, you could put Javier Baez. So they're so deep, and that's what makes a baseball team so good.
Yeah, the Cubs definitely, like last year, we saw a lot from them. Similar with the Mets, we saw a team who's kind of has a history of not being that good, and all of a sudden, huge breakout year. Everything was kind of just going their way. Chris Bryant and Schwarber, and it's tough to see a guy like that go, especially after he had such an influential impact in last year's successful season that they had.
Absolutely. They're definitely the team to watch. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about Kobe Bryant, the Warriors, and the NBA playoffs. All right, and we're back. It's a crazy night in the NBA. Wednesday night, we got two historic events tonight. We got Kobe Bryant's last game before his retirement, and of course, the Warriors chase for 73 wins. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on Kobe?
Oh, man, Kobe Bryant, where do you begin with him? Easily one of the best Lakers ever, one of the best to play the game. When you talk top 3 NBA players currently active, you're talking, LeBron James, you're talking Kobe Bryant, that he's in the talk there with just an NBA legend, and it's definitely his time. The Lakers obviously aren't doing that well this season, but just as far as like a legacy, from Kobe Bryant from back in the day when he played with Shaq till recently. I mean, he's one of the greats,
Yeah, he's truly a once-in-a-generation type of player. I mean, you have all these kids in the NBA who are coming out of college after their first year, and all these kids had Kobe posters on the wall.
Yeah,
I mean, it just shows how long he's been in this league for 20 years.
So long.
But you mentioned injuries. I mean, when it comes, it's time when you just keep getting injured over and over. It was like Steve Nash. I mean, you love the guy, but he just couldn't stay healthy. So I think it's the right time.
Absolutely.
I mean, this franchise isn't really going anywhere right now. So
talk about a historic day in basketball, though, today. Kobe's retirement and the Warriors chasing 73 wins. I mean, you couldn't script it better.
You couldn't script it better. I mean, the Warriors are just absolutely insane right now. They're playing Memphis. They played them about less than a week ago. They beat them by 1 point, but it's all right. A win's a win. They played the Spurs in their last game, so they're proving they can beat tough competition.
Especially today.
Absolutely.
Win by 1, win by 10, whatever. You get that 73rd win, you're permanently in the history books.
Absolutely. I mean, Steph Curry has taken over games against the Warriors. He had 15 points in the third quarter after a really close halftime game. So it just shows that he is no doubt the MVP of this season.
Oh, easy. I think that's an easy pick. I think if he's not the MVP, I think it would go to someone like Russell Westbrook or something like that. But he's just the clear choice. One thing I love about this Warriors Bulls dynamic is Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Warriors. He's on both sides of this Bulls record and this Warriors record. He was on the team that had 72 wins as the Bulls, and now he's looking to break his own record almost. I think something like that is just phenomenal. I think that's just a great part of the story.
Yeah, and speaking of Bulls, Michael Jordan's been really vocal about it also, trying to say get the record. At this point, I think you want to see them get the record. Records are meant to be broken, so whether they win the game or they tie it, there's always going to be debate on who was the better team. It doesn't matter about the record overall, it's about the talent that was on the team.
Absolutely.
So we're going to have to, it's obviously going to take years to decide this, but they're both very talented teams.
Yeah. And now we're going to talk about the Knicks.
Kills me. But But
Not my team, but yours, right?
My team, yeah. It's a disaster of a season. I mean, Porzingis was nice, but there's a lot of changes. So I think
that was almost kind of a tease.
Oh yeah.
Porzingis, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a nice start, but you still need a lot to do. This offseason, I think you have to hope for some opt-outs. Derek Williams and Aaron Aflalo. You're hoping that they can opt out. What do? It's their call, and also because they're going to save millions, $10 million with that. They don't have a first-round draft pick because of the Andrea Bargnani trade, which just nauseates me because that was an awful
I'm sure
trade.
A lot of Knicks fans feel the same way about
Absolutely, yeah. And third, you need a new coach. Kurt Rambis is not going to get the job done.
I've been hearing a lot about that as well.
Yeah. Stephen A. was talking about it a couple of days ago. You talk about Tom Thibodeau, great coach. David Blatt, who Stephen A. hated because LeBron was coaching that team, not David Blatt.
Of course, everyone knew that.
Absolutely. But you go for Scott Brooks, Mark Jackson. They need a coach that has experience in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
That can lead a team.
Yeah.
And also need to sign a big marquee free agent. I don't think Kevin Durant's signing. They can maybe get Mike Conley, but his injury history kind of worries me. Maybe you go for DeMar DeRozan, a second-tier free agent. You need to get somebody because they struck out last summer.
Those would all be good matchups for that team. I think they're at a point in their franchise where they need to get someone quick.
Absolutely.
Get someone who's going to gel with Melo, get someone who's going to really lead that team well, and just get someone who's going to win them games.
Absolutely.
At the bottom line for that team.
Absolutely. And lastly, it kills me to say this, but you got to get rid of Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
It's not working. The triangle just does not work
anymore. I've heard both sides of that. I've heard keep him. I've heard get rid of him. That's a hot button issue right now for Knicks fans and for all basketball fans. Everyone's obviously looking at the Knicks and looking at their situation, and everyone's got different opinions about that.
Absolutely. It's just the league doesn't run about a triangle offense anymore. You have a very athletic point guard like Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard, guys who could score the basketball. You have guys who are point forwards like LeBron, Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have Ben Simmons entering the draft, all point forwards that can play the power forward position but can dribble the ball so well. You have centers that can shoot the ball, shoot threes, but also can stay in the paint. It's just that's how the league operates now. He's not admitting to changes.
There's been a big change in strategy, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's more of like a shooter's game, and whatnot, especially with Steph Curry, the way he's shooting the ball. He's kind of starting to set the precedent of how basketball might be played in the future.
Yeah, it really
as more
relies.
athletes are going to start to emulate him in college and his other professional colleagues.
It relies on the point guard these days.
Yeah. So Phil Jackson's kind of running an outdated strategy of basketball, and he's got to either adapt to the game or they've got to get someone who's already adapted to the game and has a different strategy going forward for the Knicks.
Definitely. How about your playoff thoughts really quickly?
Playoff thoughts quick. Cavaliers, I think, are going to be a strong team. I'm just waiting around for the Warriors-Spurs matchup.
Yeah,
I think that's just inevitable. I can't wait to see that series. I think that's going to be the highlight of the whole playoffs because I think what's going to happen is the Warriors are definitely, the Warriors might get into the finals. I think they're a strong favorite, but don't count out the Spurs ever.
No, you can't.
They're a quiet team. They're very good. They had a very good season this year. Almost similar to the Warriors, and so they might get into the finals too. But if the Warriors get into the finals, I think they're going to destroy whatever team they play, to be honest. I think the Cavs are going to give them their best shot, but, Warriors, NBA champions, I think, easily.
Definitely, and I'm just going to point out two teams to watch. In the East, I say watch out for the Toronto Raptors. That team's very deep. They're second in the East, and they're going to probably stay in second. You have DeMar Carroll coming back, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan. The team's very experienced with some good veterans. And also watch out for the Portland Trailblazers. Do I think they're going to win it? No, but everyone counted out that team. They lost 4 out of their 5 starters.
They're great at home, the Trailblazers.
Yeah. CJ McCollum stepped up. Mason Plumlee was a nice trade acquisition. So they're finding ways to win again. I don't think they're going to win it, but it's still a nice story.
They're a scrappier team.
Absolutely.
They'll maybe scrape a couple wins across the board if they play in a series. Definitely their home games, though. When they play at home, they've just been unstoppable this year. So watch out for those playoff games where the Trailblazers are at home.
Yeah, you truly never know. All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the NHL playoffs.
And welcome back to Mctv Sports. I'm Mike Conway. Here we're joined by Jake Jubla, and today we're going to talk about the NHL.
Yes, we are. I think we're going to start with the Washington Capitals and the Philadelphia Flyers. This is the first time they've seen each other since 2008, and when they did last, Joffrey Lupul scored the game-winning overtime goal in Game 7, and as a Caps fan, still a little heartbroken over it, but I think I'll get over it. I think that the Caps have the edge in this one. With Kuznetsov, their depth down the middle is awesome this year. Outstanding D with the addition of Mike Richards, that late pickup that they got from the Kings later in the year. And with Philadelphia, Drew leads NHL in points since 2011, 2012, and Simmons and Shen both had their best seasons. So I think it's going to be a fun one.
We pretty much covered it all. I mean, that's all I had to say. I mean, obviously, we think the Caps are going to win because you are a Caps fan. So.
Well, that could be a reason why I think they're going to win, but I really do think that they have the edge. There's this team, if you've been paying attention to them throughout the whole season, they've been dominant. They've learned how to shut down games in different situations. They're very adaptive. I'd like to see what they have to offer for this series.
How dangerous do you think Philly is in this series against the Caps? Do they pose a real threat?
I think they pose a threat. It depends on the goaltending with Mason. But I think, honestly, the key factor for Philly is going to be if Jakub Voracek can play healthy. If he can play healthy, I expect this to be a pretty interesting series for them.
All right, we're going to stay in the East. We're going to go to the Rangers and Penguins now. This game just happened, right? Or is it still playing right now?
I think it's still going on right now.
Yeah,
I
going
believe
on
that
right now.
the
So,
Penguins,
yeah.
last time I checked, the Penguins were up 2-0. I'm not sure if Lundqvist got in the second period, I believe, or in the first period of the game, Henrik Lundqvist, goaltender, got injured. He had an eye injury due to a high stick. I'm not sure if he returned. I probably should know, but I was in a meeting and I wasn't able to check that out.
It's quite all right. So what I've heard, Marc-Andre Fleury's out of the game, right, for the Flyers?
Marc-Andre
Not for the
Fleury-
Flyers, for the Penguins.
Right, he was a game-time decision. He
Okay.
was suffering from a concussion.
All right, that's not good.
No, and I believe Zakov, who's a rookie
Okay.
for the Penguins, was starting, and he looked fairly solid. And last time I checked, he was holding a shutout.
Okay, I know Mata was definitely playing, correct? He's out for a couple of games. I think he's playing, and then I heard Malkin wasn't playing also, right?
I do not believe Malkin is in. They have quite a few guys from Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, from their AHL team playing, and they've been somewhat productive for most of the season. But I expect Kessel, Bonino, Hagelin, and Crosby, of course, to lead the way for them.
And for the Rangers, they're definitely dealing with some injuries also, right?
That's been the talk of the town recently.
Yeah.
With Stahl, McDonough, and Girardi injured.
Yep, those three.
The back D are going to have to start pulling their weight around a little bit with Kevin Klein, Mark Stahl, Keith Yandel. Eric Stahl's injury, too, is a little bit – it throws another wrench into the series, but I don't expect him to miss too much time.
So what are your thoughts on this series? You think the Rangers are actually going to lose it the first round this year?
As much as I want to see the Caps go on and play them and then beat them, that's an unpopular opinion, obviously. I think that the Penguins are going to outlast them. I think that the injuries on the Rangers are going to pose too much of a threat. It's going to be too late, I believe, for them.
Yeah, they're relying on Henrik Lundqvist too much, and obviously by tonight's game, it's not going to help if they're too injured.
If he's out, that obviously would be a game changer. But I think that the injuries on their D are more important right now, and we'll see what happens. I think that, like I said, it'll be too late by the time the injuries, but the time people are injured, come back.
Okay.
I think historically the Penguins in the matchup against the Rangers have beat them. Historically, have a better record than them. So do you think that plays a big part? Looking at the previous matchups, how telling is that for this matchup?
I don't. This is from a Caps fan, and I think many Caps fans would agree with me that history you can't solely look at it from that way. Just because it's happened in the past does not guarantee anything about the future, and that is especially true in the NHL playoffs.
All right, we're going to go to the West now. Mike, you wanted to talk about the Sharks and Kings.
Sure, of course, the Kings are always a team, we start to see around the playoff push, and the Sharks have had a pretty good season this year.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to be a good matchup. I think the Kings, drawing from kind of being in the playoffs more than the Sharks, that's going to draw an edge, that experience, that kind of confidence going into the game. But, I've been watching the Sharks this year, and, man, watch out for them.
Yeah.
They're a good team, and I think given the right opportunity, if things go their way, they're going to make a big splash this year in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Joe Thornton, this is his best season since 09-010. He's got 82 points. Pavelski, their captain now, has 70 points. I think this is his first year as captain, too, and he's really stepping up. He's leading by example, and it pays off with this deep, dangerous Sharks team. And they're looking for redemption after last year, after that early exit. I believe they were up 3-0, and the Kings came back. And
that was disappointing.
That must have been disappointing.
For them,
I'm sure it was.
Of course, the Kings, it was very exciting to come back and win that series.
Oh, absolutely.
One player we got to mention quickly, Jaromir Jagr, the guy that truly doesn't age. He's playing well for the Panthers, right?
No, it's great, and it's nice because this is the first time in 4 years that Florida's been in it, and I think that it's nice that Jaromir Jagr, he's just got a great. Who has that good of a head of hair?
Yeah, I'm
when
a little
you're
jealous. Not gonna
at that
lie.
age.
At
Yeah.
that age, that's amazing. It's beautiful.
Florida, of course, has been playing exceptionally this year. You know, them in Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah, they have 6 players on their team that have reached the 50-point mark. I
Yeah.
think that finding scoring in the playoffs is not going to be a problem for them.
Definitely. And one last series we're going to talk about in the West, the Blackhawks and the Blues. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, this game is going on right now currently. I do not know the score. Blues are very deep and dangerous. They need to have David Backes back from his injury, though. But the line of Stasny, Fabry, and Brouwer, I believe, that is a potent line. They've got some serious scoring, and their defense, obviously, is phenomenal.
And then also Vladimir Tarasenko leading the team in goals and points, if I'm correct.
Yes, I believe you are correct. And the dual side to that is that the Blackhawks are just as deep. I mean, you have on the second line, you have Panarin, Kane, and Anisimov. And Kane just surpassed 100 points for the first time in his career. Again, this is going to be a high-scoring series. I expect a lot of goals from both sides. But the Blackhawks D isn't as deep as it normally is. I think the Blues might have the edge in scoring in this one.
All right. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the Masters and Will Smith.
And welcome back to Mctv Sports. I'm Mike Conway. Special thanks to Jake Jubla for hanging out with us and talking a little bit about hockey. Now we're going to shift focus over to the Masters, which took place last week. Of course, the first thing we absolutely have to talk about is Jordan Spieth. He had a huge lead, or excuse me, I believe it was a 5-stroke lead, and all at the 12th hole with that quadruple bogey.
Yeah, that's where the collapse began.
That is right down the slope there.
Yeah,
And that was all she wrote for Spieth for that.
It was definitely disappointing. I mean, he was the reigning Masters champion.
Absolutely. It's hard to watch someone just implode like that, especially someone who played so good at that same course last year, came back, started off so well, and then just that one hole just really tripped him up and, gave it away for him.
Yeah, Danny Willett came in with the victory at the Masters.
Absolutely.
Kind of came out of nowhere, but you know what?
At the same time, Spieth was imploding. Willett was kind of sharpening his game and really, making those holes count, and that's what ended up getting him to pass Spieth and then, of course, win the Masters. And it was hard for Spieth to put that jacket on him. After that jacket should have been his. If he doesn't implode at that 12th hole, he's putting another jacket on.
Yeah, I mean, Willett took advantage of Spieth's mistakes.
Absolutely, yeah. That is golf. You have a 5-stroke lead, and then one hole happens, and then you don't. That's golf. That is golf. Absolutely.
And we're gonna end it with a tragic story this weekend with former Saints defensive end Will Smith was shot and killed in a traffic altercation this weekend. The information is still a little cloudy, but
of course, in the coming weeks, we'll probably be able to find out more information about that.
Yeah.
And more information will surface about that.
Absolutely.
Of course, that's just terrible, tragic news.
Yeah. From what I've heard, a big fan of him in New Orleans. Drew Brees was clearly upset. Sean Payton, the head coach, was upset, and everyone's kind of putting their voice to stop this violence in New Orleans because enough's enough.
Absolutely.
All right, on that note, we're going to end it. I'm Jon Butensky.
And I'm Mike Conway.
And we'll see you guys next week.